After the hype and everyone got excited,
Yeah.
it's now kind of the phase where people try to implement it. And by the way, not just in pharma and not just in market access, and realize that not everything works. And we talked
Yeah.
about the information seeking opportunity.
Hmm.
So how do we deal with this? I would say the traditional Gen AI. So can it help with drafting of core documents, summarizing papers, synthesizing information?
Your team member could be an AI agent in market access.
I think start early and try it out and learn it. I mean, with every POC we conduct, we learn, and some we.
Welcome to the AIX Healthcare podcast by Vamstar. Today we're diving into one of the most exciting developments in healthcare, how artificial intelligence is transforming the way we approach market access in the pharmaceutical industry. With AI, we can now analyze massive data sets, predict pricing trends, and optimize market strategies in ways that were never possible before. It's truly revolutionizing how companies bring therapies to market and ensure patient access, and we're excited to explore how this technology is reshaping the future of pharma. Before we start, I want to take a moment to highlight the key role Vamstar plays in this transformative journey. As many of our listeners may know, Vamstar specializes in providing advanced AI-driven solutions for the pharmaceutical and medtech industries. We're at the forefront of delivering cutting-edge tools that help companies tackle some of the most complex challenges in market access, pricing, tendering, and business development. Our AI solutions are designed to enhance decision-making processes by leveraging vast and diverse datasets, automating traditionally manual tasks, and generating actionable insights. Welcome to today's episode of AIX Healthcare Podcast. My name's Tim. I'll be moderating today's session. We're excited to have a very special guest, Marco Rauland, Vice President of Global Market Access and Pricing at Merck KGaA, joining us from Darmstadt, Germany. Hi Marco, thank you for being here. Could you start by introducing yourself and sharing a bit more about your role at Merck?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. As you already said, I'm from the German Merck KGaA. And I'm from the Global Value Demonstration Market Access and Pricing team. And within this team, I'm leading a group which is called Strategy, Pricing, and Analytics. And I think the title already suggests why I have a specific interest in AI. And what we are currently looking into is how AI can help, let's say, key activities in the market access space. So I'm looking forward to our conversation.
And finally, our host for this episode, Vamstar CEO Praful Mehta, will be guiding this conversation. Praful, could you start by giving a brief introduction about yourself?
Yeah, no, really appreciate it. Thanks, Marco, for joining us. My name is Praful. I'm leading Vamstar, which is at the cutting edge of implementing AI in the pharma and the medtech space. We focus, obviously, it's very specifically on aspects of pricing, market access, and value analysis. So yeah, lovely to sit down with you and understand today how AI is being implemented. So very passionate also about this subject. And we're also investing very heavily in this space to make sure that the industry can leverage some of the tools and technologies.
Brilliant. This is a very exciting topic. We're getting a lot of visits at the moment on this, and there's a lot of chat online about it on social platforms, etc. So Marco, AI is a broad concept with applications across industries. When we think about its role in the pharmaceutical sector, particularly in market access, how do you define AI's impact? And are there any specific areas within pharma market access where you think AI is creating most value?
I mean, first of all, I think we went through this kind of hype phase 2 years ago. Everyone was playing around with ChatGPT and got super excited. And I think now we are more in the implementation and I would even call it piloting phase. We need to see where can AI help to make more efficient, better informed, quicker business decisions. And when I look into potential applications in market access and pricing, I always look at it in terms of kind of three categories, if you like. So one is, I would say, the traditional Gen AI. So can it help with drafting of core documents, summarizing papers, synthesizing information. And then this, of course, could help with drafting, for example, of global master value disease, which, as you know, is the source then also for countries for their local submissions. And another area I think is, can it help in, I call it translation into local submission documents. And of course, it's not just translation language, it's also the format which you have for local submissions. So I think these are two examples of Gen AI. Then I think there's the area of conversational AI. So can it help kind of preparing for stakeholder interactions, for negotiations, by kind of simulating negotiations? And the third area, I would call it, is more the machine learning. This is all about prediction, so price prediction, value prediction, which I would even call the last one is the holy grail. So value prediction in pharma, I think, would be a big win. And yeah, I think some are more advanced than others.
Yeah, just to kind of double click on this, Marco, maybe I get very fascinated by the whole kind of like, the under AI, a lot gets squeezed in, right? Even traditional analytics, for example, gets squeezed in. I mean, if you look at today, a definition of AI is a classic Turing test, right? Which is, can it actually perform and maybe work as a human, for example? So from that perspective, I mean, what you just described, I mean, do you see a differentiation between, let's say, traditional analytics being AI led maybe, and core tasks being performed by AI, for example, within the access domain?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question and an interesting way to look at it. I actually never looked at it from the Turing test perspective. And I think just maybe to mention an example where I think, if you like, the Turing test, in my opinion, has failed is, I think many are trying to use specifically a Q&A functionality, chatbot functionality to get information from, let's say, key documents like the global master value disease. And we at Merck, we tried it, but we realized that the machine is making up information. It's providing wrong information. And this is why we actually decided kind of to put this on hold, because we don't know how to deal with this if we share this information externally. I mean, think about a country who, I don't know, prepares for a payer negotiation. They have a request. I don't know, next time when we meet, let's talk about side effects. And you ask the machine, so what are the side effects? And it gives you a wrong answer. So I think this is something which we never thought of as an industry in our regulated market. So, and maybe also a bit referring to your question, I think this is something where I think you still need the human expert, at least nowadays. It's going to change over time with advanced technologies. On the other hand, where we've seen, for example, where the machine is better than the humans is, for example, in price prediction for tenders. It's actually surprising to see that the machine, based on historical decision, makes in many cases better price predictions than the human. So I think there are areas where the technology is more advanced than in other areas.
Yeah, I think that's a very nice view on this, and I think if you look at it from that perspective, I think when you look at complex data sets, I think often at the human layer, there is an application of maybe certain tasks being done by machines versus the humans, right? Or maybe at least augment those tasks better. But then layers below, when it's about data and mapping data sets, and especially in areas like pricing and regulatory compliance and commercialization, do you have a view on maybe there is a lot more utility of what goes under the AI, because there will be traditional mapping or analytics that could combine different data sets, but the cleansing part of the data, which is often the dirtiest, darkest area where even humans don't want to operate, for example. I mean, and do you see any applications or within Merck, have you seen anything being, let's say, implemented?
Yes, and I think you touched on a very important point, which we haven't talked about, is the data. And I think, to be honest, the challenge, specifically market access, is not necessarily the quality of data, which is a discussion in many other industries and areas. I think it's the quantity of data. If you think about value prediction, which I said, I think it would be the holy grail if you could predict we have limited data sets, right? We don't have 10,000 launches a year. I think we have 30 to 40 a year. They're in different indications, and we also know that value in one indication is not the same as in another indication. So I think it's really kind of limitation of information. So how can we now train the machine if we don't have so much data points? We briefly touched upon tenders, and I think the reason why we are more advanced, at least in tender price prediction or tender outcome prediction, is that it's normally only one variable, it's price only, which I think makes it a bit easier. The second one is that I think it specifically works in countries where you have a lot of tenders, which means a lot of data. And the third point is that I think it works only if the data is being published. And there are countries like Italy, where you have a lot of tenders, the outcomes are published, and let's say, I don't know, 90% are price only decisions or binary decisions. So I think it makes it easier for a machine to learn. As I said, when we look into value prediction, I think that's totally different and much more complex area. And I also think that the time horizon plays a role. I mean, if you want to do value prediction now for an asset, which I don't know, will be launched in 10 years' time, there will be a lot of changes in the environment, the healthcare system, the financial systems, the competitive environment. I mean, you name it. And I think that makes tender price prediction, for example, a bit easier because the time horizon is, I mean, you talk about, I don't know, 6 months or so, and not like or even shorter time periods, and not in 10 years' time. So therefore, I think data is key. I mean, we all know this. And the more data you have, the quality of data, but as I said, I think that's actually not the biggest problem. Maybe it's the accessibility will definitely help to develop future tools.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very, very, very interesting point you bring. Now, I think you touched upon the whole quality aspect, which I think you're correct that in the sense that today, when it comes to market access, the quality of data is not an issue, but at least what we see is that we have some data, and I think if you look at how the teams today make decisions about launches, it's based on some model logic that they have internally, right? Where they're probably looking at clinical evidence, they're looking at real world studies, they're possibly looking at some sort of competitive dynamics like analogs which have worked, and then coming up with a thesis. And I think that's where it's less about the utility of, let's say, especially generative AI frameworks, but more around how you leverage that insight out of these different data sets quantitatively to project the future, right? And I think it might not get everybody to that whole holy grail of value prediction, but at least the ability of AI to merge these streams together and put it in front of human teams to then possibly look at it and saying, yeah, I think this scenario works better than the other. I mean, is that how kind of you're visualizing it, or a different version of this?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I think that this is also the question many people ask is, how will the market access function will look like in an AI world moving forward? And I think it will change in a way, as you just highlighted, that the tools will help to make better informed decisions, to provide, if you like, a second opinion, so that we can make, as I said, better informed, more strategic decisions, and we don't invest too much time into all the number crunching analytics and analysis. I don't think, and you also touched on this, is I mean, it's so complex. We always try to figure out how value drives then also the access opportunities, but there's not always one parameter or a clear correlation between one parameter and the outcome. So it's multifactorial, and then it can change by country, it can change by indication, let's say the kind of weights of the different factors. So I think this will help with kind of scenario analysis, so they can look in what if and see what will be the impact, which helps you then to make better strategic decisions, to develop more targeted products, and maybe then at the end get them earlier to the right patient.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you talk about these issues, I always kind of look at it today. When it comes to the second opinion, right? Most of the reliance is on consulting firms. Like they get involved very heavily in this aspect of it. Do you see AI at least taking shape in a way inside the company where the reliance on consulting teams becomes less, and the internal teams can leverage their own capabilities now far more than they were able to do before.
And it's also a very good question. I think it depends on the nature of the project or the business question. I think things like medical writing, translation, they will be replaced by AI at some point in time. But I think the strategy part, the also experience, which you need to have in our area, and sometimes, yeah, it's really kind of the experience which helps them to make decisions. And I think talking about consultants, of course, the advantage always has been that they work in several indications, and our industry people are focusing on some or even just one indication. And I think it's always beneficial to have also learnings from other companies / other products, of course, not without sharing any confidential information, but just okay, what was the process which led to a better outcome? Again, not of course talking about products specifically, but I think this will remain as a consultancy service, the kind of more now I'm making the word, sorry, the more administrative task. I think they will be replaced at some point in time.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly what we're hearing as well. Where today, even some of the like consulting teams, we realize that they're actually doing it's a lot of manual heavy lift that they have to do on their side as well in order to create a narrative. By focusing more on the narrative part and less on the admin part, that also means that teams that are leveraging these consulting organizations could then focus more on the strategy shaping rather than, and the experience, as you're saying, bringing it out rather than on the administrative side of these things. No, I think that's very good to know. In terms of, for example, just kind of changing a little bit tone on this. When you look at, like, I've heard talks about it, and I know it's quite far in the future. This whole agentic AI, right, which is the AI agent, something like market access agent, which will become a part of your team. I mean, do you see that ever as a future? Like, your team member could be an AI agent in market access, and he or she does a range of the admin tasks that, for example, were done by your team members in the future. I mean, do you see futures?
Yes, I mean, also coming back to, I mean, agents are supposed to conduct specific tasks, and I think that's something which we see already being applied with AI. And think about the co-pilot, which in a way is an agent which helps you with specific tasks you define. I mean, if I think about the future, I think many of the analytic aspects and analytics which we do will be done by agents. And I think, I mean, if, for example, if you launch a product, I mean, you need to think about what are the country individual access opportunities. You need to think about the sequence, which then, of course, is supported by IRP analysis and all these kind of analysis, and also looking about a global launch. I think there are many tasks which an agent can conduct, which again, I think frees up time then for market access. Think about the implications and the strategy. And I think a good example is what we are currently working on is, and I guess every company has a way how they approve prices, so that with every price request, we automatically run an IRP analysis just to see what the impact is. And I think this is just one example of a specific task you always do related to a specific business question. And I think in the future, this might be done, or will be done, I guess, with agents or standardized assistants.
Yeah, no, I think the IRP stuff that you talked about is very fascinating, right? It's all done today, Excel led, and it puts a lot of strain on the internal teams because they have to execute this pretty regularly. A huge area and it's a very generalized task in the sense that there's a set pattern of rules which are applied in the practical settings. Leveraging those rules, for example, to constantly do analysis of your products and possibly your competitive products could also give very good insights to those teams, especially as an agentic AI.
Marco, you mentioned a lot about the opportunities. I mean, they're vast. I mean, AI is a massively new technology. The directions of where it's going to go, how it's going to be implemented, and where the benefits are going to lie, very much still up in the air. There's a lot of discussion about it. There's a lot of testing and trying. organizations are using anywhere from, from the commercial operations, obviously, through to the development and like R&D side of things. So we've talked about that, but the question I have is from an operational standpoint, what are some of the obstacles you think the pharma industry is facing with integrating AI directly into their operations?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's really the challenge of integrating. It's maybe the value the tools bring at the moment. I think when you can prove the value, I don't think that the integration is the big issue. And I mean, I gave the example of using this to get information which you may share externally, where we say we are not there yet, and then the human is better. I'm not saying also humans make mistakes, but of course the experts, at least at the moment, make less experts than the Gen AI, at least in our cases. And then there's also the question, what's the legal process then? Who is approving this and who is liable if you share incorrect information? So therefore, I think with information,
a lot of the major farmers, I mean, the same applies in the medtech space. They're reliant on legacy systems. They're restrained by regulatory constraints and potentially facing at the moment talent shortages or labor shortages, and potentially technical barriers where they don't necessarily have the teams to implement. Do you think there's any sort of like resistance to AI, perhaps, driven by concerns of job displacement, or whether it's, anything that could slow adoption at this point?
I don't think there is a resistance to use AI. I think it's the opposite. I think people overuse it at the moment and try to overuse it in every kind of process. But I think the willingness there, and I think people also realize that it's not going to replace humans or human tasks. I'm sorry. I think it's not going to replace human, but maybe some of the human tasks. Maybe that's the right way to phrase it. As we talked about it, I think standard processes, analytics, they will be done by the machines, AI in the future, which gives us and free up more time for market access experts to look into more strategic things and spend time in more strategic considerations. So therefore, I wouldn't say there's a resistance. There is maybe now after the hype and everyone got excited, it's now kind of the phase where people try to implement it. And by the way, not just in pharma and not just in market access, and realize that not everything works. And we talked about the information seeking opportunity. So how do we deal with this? What is the legal consideration if you want to share something which a machine generated as an answer? Who is reliable for wrong information? I mean, this is still can happen also with humans, but as I said before, we see now at the moment still more mistakes, incorrect, incomplete information generated by AI than.
That's interesting, because obviously you mentioned over-reliance on AI or over-implementation. Are we talking from, and it kind of leads me into another question I have outstanding, which is, is it as a result of working with external partners to stay at the edge of that, or was it essentially building internal capabilities? Is the over-reliance that people, essentially organizations, are trying to implement it themselves, or is it coming from a host of different external partners? I mean, where does it lie in that spectrum?
I think one thing is that we always, as I said, 2 years ago, we all got excited. We tried everything to ChatGPT, and at least I thought it's super cool, and I think many other people. And then, when you then now look how often do I use ChatGPT, it's less than 2 years before. I use it for specific tasks where I see the benefit. So that's why I think at the beginning, I mean, you get excited and you try everything, but then you realize what's really helpful for me. The same is with Copilot. I think so many options, but I don't think everyone is using all options or all tasks which Copilot can conduct. I think there are some which you prefer over others, and it might be different for a colleague of yours. So that's why I think it's important to play around with these tools and solutions and to see what works for me and what kind of information or support is what I need. Coming to the consultant part, as you asked, for me, this is kind of, there's this administrative side of things, which I think will also remain internally, because I mean, you want also to ensure that this becomes a kind of standard within the function and the company. but when it coming back to the outcome prediction, I think there is important to have also kind of, and I call it on purpose, outside view, so that you also get a different perspective on this, also get this experience in house. I mean, we now, I mean, many launches are in rare diseases nowadays. I mean, we don't have big indications anymore. So I think there's always a space for this experience, which will help them to make better decisions. And there I see also room, as I said before, for consultancies and external support for the admin like task. And I consider IRP, for example, also as a kind of admin. It's a standard approach, which you do. And when you have it once, you have it, right? And you use it, and you need to make it, of course, a kind of process and governance in the company. But at the end, then it's there. But all the topic about value, outcome prediction, including all the aspects from how should the trial look like, which endpoints should I collect from a payer perspective. I mean, we all know this is kind of an endless set of questions where you never will have a kind of standard.
Yeah. Actually, just to double click on that, maybe Marco, at least what we are seeing that, as you said, right, initial excitement hype was, you can simply take an approach like, let's say, ChatGPT or Copilot and take it in, and then somehow you'll be able to get those answers. The odds of that, even in the early days, was kind of low because we operate in such a tight, narrow domain, in the sense that a whole worldwide web approach, which is what these tools are powering, it is not going to go a very long way. And I think people realize that, and it led to this custom POCs that are industry specific, leveraging a lot of the industry specific data sets, right? So for example, I mean, we kind of explored how you can build a RAG engine, or retrieval augmented generation engine, specific to clinical data, because then you are not really looking at everything. You're just purely looking at kind of clinical data sets and all that. I mean, have you seen internally or heard about it within the industry, kind of applications of such targeted tools rather than broad stroke, large kind of LLM applications?
Yeah, but I think at the end, this is where we will end to. I mean, I think it goes back to and I mean it in a positive way, you play around and then you define okay, what's the scope of, what's actually my business question. And then you narrow it down to, okay, well, what's my real business question and where and how should I apply it? And as you said, I think it starts with POCs and just to see, does it work in general, and then to see, okay, where can I apply it, and then test it. And I think that's the way to move forward. We also talked about tender outcome prediction. I don't think you can apply this in all countries, right? And then at some point you reduce it to the set of countries where you have the data, where you have a lot of tenders, and where it's primarily driven by price and binary decision.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. Now, I think in terms of looking, let's say, a little bit towards challenges scope as well. So I know companies are that, like, from a POC to an implementation space, there's a lot of discussion happening right now, and that's where a lot of these technologies though end up failing because it's not able to fully go inside a company. Because our company internal environment is very complex as well. There's a lot of tools, a lot of systems, a lot of kind of sharing across departments and teams. Have you seen approaches or internally are exploring, like, maybe an approach towards, if AI is to be, let's say, used, if it's firstly proving its value and it's to be used, is there like a general consensus developing that you see that how will we tackle this from a systems point of view? Like, are we going to change things? Are we going to involve like new facets of technology? How will we create centers of excellence? Like, have you seen this kind of dialogue happen internally, or we're not there yet?
Yeah, there I can only speak for my company. I mean, we always look into and cross functions and TAs into AI solutions, and then we as a company think AI is the future. As I said, we don't think AI will replace all humans in the future, but AI is something which will be part of operations process in the future. And as I said, in our areas, and we think we should be ahead and try it now before it's too late. And so that's why we kind of spend a lot of time into POCs, and we have learning, so which we also share across different functions and TAs. As many tasks or questions are the same. I mean, we talked about chatbot functionality and for global master value disease and market access, but you have the same documents and need in actually all other areas. So we will look into and all TAs, and we have regular touch points to exchange learnings, which I think is key. And I mean, learnings and failures, and then why did some things didn't work, and then I know it saves time then for the other teams moving forward.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then when it comes to just to kind of double click on this, I mean, I always find it fascinating. So the reason why we are doing this convergence event is also to bring the C-suite to the table and also understand, from an upselling and a downselling perspective, especially aligning that organization top to bottom, where the dialogue sits today. Like, I mean, do you see that, let's say at a Merck level, that complete alignment exists between, being an AI organization, let's say, looking forward 5-10 years?
Yes, we definitely
Yeah.
are. I mean, and this is all, I mean, as I said, it's now part of every consideration is looking to is there an AI application which helps us in this regard. And that's when it's top down. I mean, you can also read this as being published. I think we actually rank also quite high in terms of where we are in terms of AI applications. And I think that is because we started early just to try out. And as I said, for me, part is also the failure, and I mean it really in a positive way, is then also to see, okay, this is at the moment not working, so maybe we should better not use AI in this specific instance, but there might be others where it works. And I think that's also important to know, okay, what should we focus on? Not knowing what will be the next development in the AI space, right? And now the problem has been addressed.
Absolutely.
So just sorry to interject quickly. So you said obviously not knowing where things are going to go, but obviously very much off the top of your head here. So no empirical data to back it up, but where would you see AI in the pharma industry would look like in the next 5 to 10 years or so?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Normally I answer, I don't know. And I think no one knows. I mean, I think it will conduct standard processes analytics. We will use AI. And there will be areas where AI will also for making business decisions.
Okay.
But then for me, a question is, we talked several times about tenders. And I think for a specific period of time, it might be a competitive advantage having AI solutions. But what if everyone has this AI solution? I mean, the teams are bidding against each other, and I'm not sure if this leads to any further optimization. So therefore, I believe in the future it might be more also a game of who has the better algorithm. Also talking about value prediction. Yeah, I mean, you could argue, and I always said this as kind of what could be the future scenarios. I said maybe there's two computers negotiating prices. One has all the value information, the other one all the economic information, and it takes I don't know 2 seconds, and you have an agreed price and access agreement. But I think that this is really maybe a long shot, as I think it will be the game of the algorithms, and it's who has the better algorithm, which allows better prediction of outcomes, which allows to focus or develop more targeted products, the right products, and define as early as possible which are the ones which will really then address an unmet need, which are needed in the future. So I think we will see this being more applied in, I would call it drug development. We see it at the very beginning with identifying the right mechanisms, actually, and maybe the right molecules in a way. But we're also seeing this then being applied in the other functions that they predict the outcomes and help them to make decisions earlier and develop drugs faster. So that's I think will be the next thing we see maybe in 5 years' times.
No, I think very good point, and I think I want to double click a little bit on this, Marco. So I always find fascinating that I think all the work that you're doing, which is pretty amazing, and some of the work being done in other facets of industry. So when it comes to decision making, which is today very manual and heavy, and there's a lot of you've got to bring few things of data alignment around kind of value and outcomes and bring that all to the table to come sort of some sort of decision. That's kind of one part. We definitely, I think, both you and me have an agreement that it'll change in the last 5 or 10 years. It'll be sped up, so to speak. But the other part, which is about decision implementation, which I always find fascinating, because implementing a decision on pricing and understanding if, for example, a specific group of, let's say, physicians or patients are actually taking the drugs and getting the benefit out of it. Do you see any scope over there of AI in the next, let's say, 5, 10 years, from a tools point of view or from a capability point of view?
Yeah. I mean, overall, and I think it goes back to the point I said, I think we will see a more targeted, faster development of drugs. And we will also see this, and we haven't talked about this, the AI solutions will help to have with the design of trials. They will help in what are the best outcomes or endpoints. They will help predict also the outcomes. They will help to predict the outcomes maybe for specific patient subgroups. So they will help as early as possible to say, well, this drug is really addressing unmet needs, specifically in the age population of, I don't know, above 60. And here's how the trial design should look like, and here's the projected outcome if this is the design. And we know this will help to reduce the kind of failures which we have, which is the nature of our business over 10 years time period on average to develop a drug. And will help as early as possible to detect or correct course, if you like, and say, okay, I mean, if we develop this, we should go into this sub-indication and this specific patient population, as this will lead to better outcomes and really then help to develop drugs which really will help patients in the future.
No, that's very true. And I think we are seeing quite a lot of positive momentum on that front already. There's companies investing quite significant amount of resources in that direction. Just one kind of question on this, just to double click and understand a little bit. Do you see potential for kind of partnerships and collaborations to shape this future, or you think companies will have to chart their own course in coming up with approaches that work for them?
As I said, I think for kind of internal processes, and we talked about agents or whatever I like to call it, company will, and they're already done it, they will develop their own tools, and they will be part of the operations and all the procedures and processes. But then there is all these aspects beside these kind of standard approaches where, okay, here's a new asset, which indication should we focus on? How should we prioritize our pipeline? What are scenarios when we develop this specific product? And I think this, as I said before, it will be hard to standardize. I mean, you may have and we talked about it the other day. I mean, you have a value framework in oncology, which was a big thing a while ago, but then you think about a value framework in another indication, which is different because of different drivers, different aspects you need to consider. So there, I think you may have a standard process, what to do when, but the actual task, I think, cannot be standardized as this is the asset indication specific.
Yeah, no, very true, actually, and very good point. Just kind of one small kind of note on this. So looking ahead now, especially, what advice would you give and summarize, for example, to companies that are, I mean, not obviously as farther ahead as you, but either are skeptical or they don't believe in this? Like, what would be your recommendation or advice to them?
Yeah, well, you better learn as AI will be the future, and not just in pharma and not just in market access. And I think a quote, and I think it's from a Harvard professor, his name slipped my mind, but it's AI won't replace the humans, but it will replace humans who are not using AI. And I think that is a very good description as how I think the future will look like. I mean, we will do specific tasks, but we will have agents, AI solutions, which helps us, to be more efficient, to save time, and make better informed decisions. And then I think start early and try it out and learn it. I mean, with every POC we conduct, we learn, and some we stopped. Some, I mean, we even put more resources behind it because we think that it will definitely be helpful and useful. And you could argue, okay, you can't just wait until this has been developed and then use it, but I think you also need to understand what is working and why is it working to make the right decisions and out of what, let's say the machine tells you. Because I think that that's also part and a key part of the learning.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Marco.
Thank you, Marco, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure talking with you. To all our listeners, please note that views and opinions shared in this podcast are solely those of Marco Rauland and do not necessarily represent the official views or positions of Merck KGaA Darmstadt, Germany. As we continue to explore the rapidly evolving intersection of AI and healthcare, we encourage you to stay tuned for future episodes where we'll dive even deeper into how AI is shaping the space. At Vamstar, we're at the forefront of this transformation. Our Tender AI, Pricing AI, and Value AI are helping commercial teams improve their decision-making capabilities. Tender AI, also known as Tender GPT, helps you streamline workflows by indexing, analyzing, and matching tenders for your products, making it easier for your teams to organize and map crucial decision-making data across accounts. With AI, you can now extract key criteria and definitions, enabling your business to differentiate and shape tenders more effectively. Our pricing AI, known as Pricing Copilot, leverages both historical pricing trends and predictive insights to recommend strategic pricing for tenders and contracts, even in markets with limited data. This AI-driven tool enhances contract negotiations and pricing strategies to capture detailed net price data across more than 40 markets. With Value AI or Value GPT, market access teams can efficiently decode and integrate data patterns to uncover new pathways and identify gaps in commercial market access. This AI-powered tool tracks and analyzes the evidence base and policies shaping access across local, regional, and global markets. By gathering and classifying clinical evidence, Value GPT provides actionable insights to navigate complex access challenges effectively. Be sure to join us next time as we continue to unlock the potential of AI in healthcare and bring you more innovative solutions to accelerate your success in this dynamic industry. See you soon.